financial investments and risk associated with capers. Are there any questions? Any objections? Seeing none, we'll make the bill request. Committee, I have another bill request. The bill request is a Kansas TSP system. Are there any questions? Any objection? Committee will make the request. Are there any other bill requests? Committee, I have another one. The bill request, actually, I have three, committee, so I'll breeze through these. I'll give you all three. If you have any objections, please let me know. The first one is on agriculture canopy. The second one is on agriculture CRP. And the third one is zoos, land property tax on zoos. Are there any questions? Any objection? Seeing none, we'll make the bill request. Committee, first thing on the agenda is the hearing for Senate Bill 403. Amelia, would you mind giving us an overview?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Senate Bill number 403 would allow Wilson County to submit to the electors the ability to impose a countywide retailer sales tax at the rate of either 1/4%, 0.5%, 0.75%, or 1%, and pledging the revenue received for the purpose of supporting emergency medical and ambulance services in the county. The tax would expire after 10 years from the date it's first collected and could be extended for additional periods upon submitting the question to the electors. All revenue from such levy would be remitted to the county, and the bill would take effect from and after publication in the statute book.
Thank you, Amelia. Committee, any questions for Amelia? Seeing none, thank you. Committee, our first proponent is Jonathan Durrett, but I would like to welcome to the committee, if he would like to say anything, Representative Newland. Not to embarrass you or put you on the spot.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the Senate. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is my hometown that we're talking about, home county, I should say, and it is solely for the purpose of funding our EMS services in both Neodesha and Fredonia. The main reason for this bill is because of language in statute that may conflict with the ability for the city of Neodesha to be able to support Wilson Medical Center. And so we need that so that we can bring that proposition to the voters of Wilson County. So that's the only reason that we're here to do this, and most definitely would appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Newland, would you stand for questions if
Absolutely.
anybody had any? Thank you. Senator Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, good to see you here today. Appreciate that. The election, has it been held?
No, it has not. This is a proposition that would allow that to be on the ballot.
I appreciate that, because so many times in the legislature, counties will hold an election, then come to us after the fact for permission. So I appreciate you doing this in the right order, and that was my whole focus. I figured that knowing you, sir, you had it done correctly. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions? If you would like to submit written testimony in support, that'd be great. If you want.
Okay.
Thank you,
so much,
Representative.
Madam Chair.
Yeah. Jonathan Durrett, welcome to the committee.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me join the committee today. It's an honor and a privilege to speak with you. My name is Jonathan Durrett. I'm the CEO of Fredonia Regional Hospital, located in Wilson County. And to understand why Senate Bill 403 is important, you really have to understand a little bit of the history with Wilson County. So in Wilson County, there are two hospitals, one Wilson Medical Center located by the city of Neodesha, and then Fredonia Regional Hospital, which is located in the city of Fredonia. And historically, both of those hospitals have been funded in part by a 1 cent city sales tax from their respective cities. So with Wilson Medical, 1 cent from the city of Neodesha, and with Fredonia Regional Hospital, 1 cent from the city of Fredonia. And the next piece there is that there are two EMS services that operate within the county. One is operated by the city of Neodesha, and the other EMS service is operated by my organization, Fredonia Regional Hospital. And historically, we've received some mill levy funding from the county that's really helped fund both services in the county. The problem with the current funding that we have for our EMS services, and if anybody's had any direct experience managing an EMS service or just even seeing simple financials from an EMS service, you know that they're simply not a moneymaker, but they're a critically needed service. And so in knowing that, when I joined the organization, Fredonia Regional Hospital, in July of 2018, we immediately saw that piece really just with our financials. And so we thought, okay, what can we do to get our services in the county, our EMS services, to really a break-even point? You know, what can we do just to simply sustain operations over the long term? And meeting with our county stakeholders, that's where we essentially came up with, okay, well, the best approach to this, why not just put it in the hands of the voters via a 1 cent countywide sales tax and let them decide how they'd like their EMS services to be funded. And so we began to move forward on that path, but that's when we uncovered that with the current statutes, the way that they're written, there's a pretty significant risk, in our opinion, that if we were to go forward with a 1 cent county EMS sales tax today, that would cause both of those 1 cent city sales tax for Fredonia Regional Hospital and Wilson Medical Center to be sunset overnight, which would be catastrophic for both organizations. And so that's what brings me before you today, and that's why Senate Bill 403 is important, because it allows the voters of Wilson County to decide how they would like to fund their EMS services without putting other critically needed funding sources at risk. And with that, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak with you today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? So I thank you, Jonathan, for your testimony. I know that the Department of Revenue has a little different interpretation, that they didn't think that this was a conflict, but you guys just want to make sure that it's clear in statute so there's no ambiguity in the statute. Would that be correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, committee. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If I heard you correctly, you said that the proposal would be for a 1% sales tax. Did you say that, or is it yet to be determined what the proposal will be?
It'll be a 1 cent for the county. Essentially, just to give you some quick numbers on it, we're estimating that it'll bring roughly $950,000 in revenue over the course of a year, which we feel would be sufficient to fund our EMS services.
The reason I ask that, the legislation says that they may submit to a vote of the citizens a quarter, a half, 3/4, or 1, but you're saying it's pretty much going to be the 1?
Precisely. And with those different options, it gives flexibility in the future should any situation change.
That's kind of what I was thinking, that they could reduce in the future. But all right. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Committee, any other questions? Thank you, Jonathan. Committee, Senator Faggs joined us. Would you like to say a couple words? Welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, committee. I'm standing here in support of 403. I got a call last summer that asked me if I'd attend a meeting. Representative Newland and I went. I was very impressed. In the room, there wasn't anybody against this. They had the county, the two cities, the two EMSs, the two hospitals. And as we all know, money doesn't grow on trees, and people want EMS services. So as a group, they've come up with this, and then the kind of the icing on the cake is the vote of the people. So that's, just wanted to come by and make sure that you knew that I was in full support of this.
Thank you, Senator. Committee, any questions for Senator Faggs? Senator Peck.
Knew you would.
I apologize, Madam Chairman. I expected that response from the Senator. But thank you, Madam Chairman. The questions that I asked of Representative Newland, are you in full agreement with his answers?
I wasn't here, so I do not know, Senator, what his part was. So That ought to be a good thing. We probably complimented each other because we was both in the same room.
I just had to do that to the senator, Madam Chairman, because he was a little bit late. But the Representative Wilson County did a great job for representing the county and for representing you because you were showing up late, Senator. But appreciate you being here.
And I'm in another committee over here in the next room, so
I understand.
I took this.
I just had to give you a rough time.
I know you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator, if you'd like to submit written testimony, you can also in support of the bill. Thank you. Committee, I draw your attention to written proponents, Jay Hall, Dr. Ashley, Chris Marple, Lori Schmidt. Is there anybody that would like to testify for the bill? Any opponents to the bill? Any neutral on the bill? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 403. Committee will open the hearing on Senate Bill 534. Amelia, will you give us an overview? Thank you guys for being here today. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I believe this is Senate Bill 514. Is that the bill we're on?
Sorry, I read the wrong number. It is 514.
Okay.
We'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 514.
Okay, thank you very
I was
much.
looking at another list. I apologize.
Senate Bill number 514 would establish an individual income tax checkoff for contributions to the Kansas Historic Site Fund beginning with tax year 2023. The bill would allow individual taxpayers to make contributions to the Kansas Historic Site Fund and select the state-owned historic site that is administered by the Kansas State Historical Society that would receive their donation. The fund would be administered by the State Historical Society, and monies would be used for the operation, maintenance, and preservation of the state-owned historic site of the taxpayer's choice. The bill would take effect from and after publication in the statute book.
Thank you. Committee, any questions for Amelia? Seeing none, thank you, Amelia. Committee, we have some special guests today. I'll open up with Paul Bond. I always mispronounce your name. I'm sorry, Paul. Bondmeyer. I was in another committee meeting and they asked me why Charles Dickens characters were in the room. And I told them maybe they realized that I often quote the titles or characters from that book, from some of his books.
Well, Senator Tyson, Chairwoman, and other members of the Assessment Committee, I come to you as one of the 9 territorial governors in Lecompton. One of them was James Denver, and people from Lecompton founded Denver, Colorado. So just some little added information. At present, the Lecompton Historical Society, we strongly endorse Senate Bill 514. There are many rich Civil War and Native American sites in Kansas. Senate Bill 514 will provide the residents of Kansas the opportunity to donate revenue with the goal of providing income to support our unique history. Many Kansans are not aware of the term Civil War birthplace where slavery began to die. This history, when promoted in Kansas and elsewhere in the United States, can be an economic development for all locations. Motor coaches and tourists need locations to stay and eat, and many of our local rural historic sites do not have these amenities nearby. The average motor coach spends several $1,000s each night in Kansas. How many of you have spent time and money visiting Civil War and Revolutionary sites in other states? We hope you have visited all of Kansas historic sites and agree Kansas has tremendous possibilities for economic development through tourism. Kansas Travel and Tourism, under the direction of Bridget Jobe, has done a wonderful job within the limited budget compared to surrounding states. The new revenue may be spent on advertising and travel promotions, which are not covered by the Kansas State Historic Sites for the historic sites across Kansas. Now, I do have 3 questions. May an individual donate money to this fund at any time of year or only when they receive their tax return? Part of the reason for the question is that currently, if an individual donates $250 to a Pacific site, that money is credited to the Kansas State Historical Foundation Fund. This redirection is automatically controlled by the cash register at the site. The local site only receives credit for donations less than $250. Will funds from the new source of revenue be protected from being deducted from the present budget for the Kansas State Historic Sites? What will the procedure be for the administrator at the sites to receive this money, and who will determine if the money can be spent in the manner the administrator requests? That's it.
Thank you, Paul. Committee, any questions? Well, I think you've posed some that we'll ask the revisor to look into after we finish the hearing.
And I have brought some information, if anybody wants it out of Lecompton. This is a story in the New York Times where the professor at KU said that Lincoln would not have been elected if it had not been for the Lecompton Constitution. And this is a story that was written in the Bald Eagle, the Lecompton Swindle, where there are at least 10 cities that published stories about Lecompton in the 1850s, all the way from Hawaii to England. So it shows you Lecompton's pop. And then this is a story in a Bald Eagle, again, that talks about the Lincoln Douglas connection to Lecompton. And the word Lecompton was used at least 55 times during the Lincoln-Douglas debate. And the South contacted the British Empire, and that story is in here, and the British Empire said the United States was too divided over the Lecompton Constitution to become involved in the situation. And then we have some brochures. So I'll leave them here. You can do whatever you want to.
That's wonderful, Paul. And you know I've visited historic sites in Kansas and other states and appreciate what you guys do. History is important and we need to keep it accurate. Thank you. Thank you. Committee, our next conferee is retired Major Kevin Griffin. Welcome to the committee.
For more than a decade, I have been privileged to work with some of the people you see here today to tell the Lecompton story as part of Kansas territorial history. I have also spent more than a quarter of a century researching, writing, and portraying one of the key American antebellum statesmen who was important with what became known as the Lecompton Swindle, the contemporary media condemnation among many of the Lecompton Constitution. That was written, of course, in Constitution Hall, now Kansas Historical Site on Elmore Street in Lecompton. This legislation will provide financial support for Constitution Hall Historic Site to enhance the interpretation of the critical event that occurred there in the autumn of 1857. Professor Robert Johansen, who taught history at the Universities of Kansas and Illinois, wrote of this event that transpired on the second floor of Constitution Hall. Quote, "The Lecompton Constitutional Convention was not only the most controversial incident in the Kansas struggle, but it was one of the most significant developments in the sectional conflict between the North and the South," end quote. That event resulted in the name of that dusty little town and its associated event being mentioned in 1858 newspapers from Australia to Honolulu and the then Sandwich Islands across America and Europe. It is a difficult story that has no heroes, but needs remembrance as one of the key political blunders that took America down the road to civil war. The good people who live there and work to preserve and present this story deserve the contributions that will be made by the passage of Senate Bill 514. Thank you.
Would you mind standing for questions? Thank you. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to testify for Senate Bill 514? Would you state your name and position for the record?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Suzanne Gurmas from Topeka. So I'm a longtime educator, principal, and superintendent of schools in Kansas. I'm here to tell you firsthand how important these historical sites are to take our children to see. You can read about it in a book, but to see it in person. So now, as a retiree, I'm a historical character interpreter. Today, Sarah Tappan Doolittle Lawrence Robinson ask you please to help fund these sites so that we can continue to take the students of Kansas to these states, to these important sites. My husband and I have traveled throughout the United States visiting all the different characters where we've lived and how important that is for all of us as Kansans. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to testify? Okay, thank you. And would you mind submitting written testimony for the committee so we have it? Would you state your name and?
My name is Randall Durbin. I live in Overbrook,
Okay,
and I'm representing the Mine Creek Battlefield Foundation.
he's in my district.
Yes, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're in support of this, the passage of this bill. It will help with the enhancement of the economic and financial well-being of the site. It's a wonderful site. Hopefully, you've all been there. Also, of course, we're getting close to the 200th birthday of one of my heroes, Ulysses S. Grant, on April 27th. So anyway, I'll just be brief. We are in support of this. It is something that would be probably very beneficial for all the sites, including Mine Creek. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And would you mind submitting written testimony to John also, so that we can have it for the record?
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And the Battle of Mine Creek, the committee may not be aware, the largest Civil War battle west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah, happened in the state of Kansas. I don't think most people even know about it. We need to spread our wealth of history. I know Paul and others do a great job doing that. I would recommend visiting the museum in Lecompton and all over our states, all of our museums.
Yeah, we have over 600 acres preserved at Mine Creek Battlefield, so it's a significant site. So thank you.
And then south of that, the Fort Scott Museum. So we've got a lot of museums throughout the state. I appreciate it. Anybody else for the bill? Seeing none, are there any? I would draw your attention, committee. Senator Francisco sent written testimony. She had a schedule conflict this morning. Any opponents to the bill? Any neutral to the bill? Seeing none, you can ask now. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This would be a question for our staff. In looking through the legislation, I noticed that it has where a person can designate a dollar amount to a historic site number. Do all of our historic sites have numbers? I'm going to say apparently so, or is this something that would need to be implemented?
Thank you. Amelia?
Madam Chair, the looking at the bill, I believe in subsection B, it would be up to the Department of Revenue to assign a historic site number to the state-owned historic sites for the purpose of making this contribution. And that information, that site number, as well as a brief description of each of the sites would be provided with the materials of the income tax forms.
Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Do you have an idea how many historical sites we have? And I realize that this is really not your responsibility to know, but just curious since
That would be a question for Eddie. So Eddie, if you mind.
Yeah, I pulled 16. I pulled that up during the testimony.
Would you state the number again? Thank you.
Yes, there are 16 historic sites, state historic sites in Kansas.
1-6. Yeah, yeah. Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Okay, thank you for that answer. I appreciate it. And since we have Eddie on the line with us, and I realize that he does not work for the Division of Budget, but I found it interesting, and maybe this is not so much a question as a comment, or maybe there is a question here, but it says that the State Historical Society indicates that the increased donations to the state-owned historical sites could be approximately $2,500 each year beginning in 2013. And then it says it indicates the bill would require $41,000, almost $42,000 from the state general fund in 2023. It's going to take a lot of years at $42,000 to make up the difference. It almost looks like, Madam Chairman, we would be better suited to just appropriate the funds from the state general fund. And of course, I realize that our fiscal notes are something that we could debate a long time, but I just find that interesting. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
No, thank you. And Senator Kirshen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank all the folks who came today to give a little bit of history for your communities and being proud of your communities. That's very important, and we appreciate that very much. I had a question on the battlefield site. Is that a cemetery too, or just a?
No,
It's not.
it's battle site.
Yeah.
Okay, I would just want to make that clear. So.
Yeah.
And one other question, I wasn't sure of, and it says this establishes a checkoff. Is that the right term? Because a checkoff is considered with a promotion, the producers vote and an amount is assessed to them to participate. Whereas this here, you're making a selection. I didn't know if that is a complication or not.
That's a good question. Amelia? I don't know. We can look into that, Senator. I know that you're referring to some ag checkoff programs, promotion programs, but I don't know if that should be amended to be a different term. We can look into that. And Amelia, I didn't know, or Eddie, did you have any of the answers to Paul's questions? Not with us. So what we'll do is we'll look those up, Paul, and we'll research it and get back to the committee with that information. Committee, any other questions before I close the hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 514. Committee, we have some time left. I would draw your attention to Senate Bill 433. Amelia, would you mind giving us an overview on 433?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Senate Bill number 433 would establish a property tax exemption for antique utility trailers registered under a specific statute that are used exclusively for personal use and not the production of income, beginning with tax year 2023. An antique utility trailer includes only those trailers that are 30 years or older, as determined by date of manufacture, and having a certain empty weight and gross weight. And the bill would be effective from and after publication in the statute book.
Thank you, Amelia. Committee, any questions on the bill? Was there an amendment to this? Did anybody have an amendment to it on the antique? You know what? Maybe it was Senator Holland that had the amendment. Committee, we will hold off on this. I didn't realize that. You know what? Committee, we do have some time. I think we're just going to call it a day unless there's any other business to be brought before the committee. We're going to have some heavy lifting next week, so take advantage of the time that you have available today. With that, we're adjourned.